welcome to this panel and reception for OVERCASTE, an exhibit on caste in BC, curated by Poetic Justice Foundation. Well, firstly, the size of this crowd is a testament to the appetite there is to talk about caste, and it's such a great sign. I think we're ready to break the silence. I hope you've had some time to check out the exhibit and get some food. The important stuff in a BC gathering. Oh my God. My name is Priti Narayan. I am an executive committee member of the Center for India and South Asia Research and assistant professor in the Department of Geography here at UBC. I want to begin by acknowledging that we're gathered on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. The Musqueam people have for millennia passed down their history, culture, and traditions from one generation to the next on these lands. As we reckon with caste among South Asians today, we situate the history of South Asian migration to British Columbia, particularly the migration of working class and caste marginalized Punjabis within the context of ongoing settler colonialism on these lands and the dispossession and erasure of indigenous communities here. Alongside, we have been cognizant about planning this event in October, marking 2 years of a genocidal campaign conducted by the Israeli state, backed by global powers, including Canada, against Palestinian people in Gaza. The declaration of a ceasefire has not meant an end to mass murder and continued destruction of Gaza and ongoing violence in the West Bank and South Lebanon. We're gathered here in solidarity with struggles for Palestinian liberation and center the spirit of community and a call for justice and freedom for everybody. On behalf of UBC, we express our gratitude to the original and ongoing caretakers and stewards of this land, and to Elder Larry Grant and Vanessa Campbell from the Musqueam First Nation, who bestowed the name Place in Many Trees upon the space in 2018. This is the Leo Institute for Global Affairs at UBC School for Public Policy and Global Affairs. The Lobby Gallery's mandate is to foster alternate forms of research dissemination through artistic expression and to make space for creative dialogue around global issues. OVERCASTE is the first exhibition of the new series on solidarity. Stay tuned for more information. And so I have some notes on housekeeping, which I'll get to at the end, but I just want to say more about OVERCASTE just as a way to set up this event. OVERCASTE is an accomplishment aimed at starting bold conversations on caste-based discrimination here in Canada, spearheaded by Poetic Justice Foundation, started in 2020, particularly to organize around caste abolition. Poetic Justice Foundation has, as they say on their website, evolved to confront a wide range of issues, from organizing in solidarity with the farmers and laborers in India in 2020 and 2021 during the Kisan Mazdoor Andolan, to assembling panels and conversations bridging academia and community to explore questions of anti-Blackness, anti-indigeneity, caste supremacy, and sovereignty. OVERCASTE first premiered at the Burnaby Village Museum in 2024 with the support of several UBC departments, in addition to CSAR, whom I will briefly acknowledge and thank now, UBC Geography, UBC History, the Institute for Gender, Race, Sexuality, and Social Justice, GRSJ, and the Department of English. We had been trying to bring this exhibit to campus for a while now, when Eleni Nelson, curator of the Leo Lobby Gallery, responded enthusiastically and made this happen. Thank you, Eleni. Yes. Huge shout out to Manmeet Singh. A huge shout out to Manmeet Singh, graduate student at GRSJ. He's been instrumental in making tonight happen. Dr. Kiran Sunar of the Department of Asian Studies, my colleagues at CSAR, Dr. Veena Sriram and Dr. M. Ramana at the back of the room, and Program Assistant Amita Diaz for their support, Becca Monarat and others at SPPGA who helped put this together. And a quick shout out to campus security as well. We've talked to them so much these last couple of days, it's been a bit dizzying. Overcast is a traveling exhibit that goes to UBC Okanagan starting January, and then the University of the Fraser Valley as well. It is up at the Liu Lobby Gallery until December 4th, so tell your friends about it and urge them to come. That's it. I promise. I'm done. Without further ado, I want to briefly introduce our incredible panel. Senator Baltej S Dhillon, Dr. Seema Mahi, the first Postdoctoral Fellow in Dalit Studies at UBC. Yeah. Anita Lal, far left, co-founder of KJF. Dr. Sharanjit K Sandhra, founder of Belonging Matters Consulting. Both of whom are the curators of OVERCASTE. The panel has a few things to discuss, following which there will be an opportunity for the audience to submit comments and questions. There will be a QR code up on the screen that you can submit your comments on, and then we will pick a few to be able to talk through at the end, hopefully. Okay, let's start with you, Anita, Shan. Tell us a little bit about your anti-caste organizing here in BC so far, and what motivated you to put together this exhibit.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Priti, for the introduction and for grounding us in this work. Thanks, everybody, for coming today and for the panel to agreeing to be part of it. My name is Anita Lal. I am co-curator of the exhibit. I'm co-founder of the Poetic Justice Foundation, and I'm also a Dalit. My family, I come from a Jamaat family, which means we work with leather. So these stories that we share here today are the story.
I'm not crying.
I thought you were laughing. I'm like, what? I think that's what we did. Didn't we do that? The stories that we share today through OVERCASTE are ones that are really familiar to me because they're my stories, they're my family stories, they're the stories of my friends, and it's their lived experiences. And before Poetic Justice came about in 2020, I did a lot of work in arts and culture spaces. And it's a lot of advocacy, a lot of equity building, and now more in the social justice space. But as I was working from this, and I'm working from a South Asian Panjabi lens, I saw that within our community, we actually weren't talking about caste. We weren't talking about the frictions that I saw my family, my nieces, my nephews, who are actually the next generation, who are actually like, fourth, fifth generation settlers here that they're facing. And I saw the fact that there was big gaps and nobody was stepping up from the mainstream spaces that I was working in to actually have these conversations. So in 2020, when we created Poetic Justice, the reason we created it wasn't a Dalit organization because once again, I come to this space with a lot of privilege. My great-grandfather came over in 1906. I'm born and raised here. My family is pretty settled. And so when it came down to my own personal lived experiences, they weren't reflective of, say, like what I saw that was happening, like actually even in the next generation. My niece was coming in and she was telling me stories about how she was being called out for her caste. And this wasn't in Surrey or in Abbotsford. This was happening in Vancouver, where the school had like 10 brown kids. There's one of the stories on there is about how she got compared, this boy who was Jat, was explaining to somebody about how, oh yeah, she's a Civic and I'm a Lamborghini. And this is my 13-year-old niece, and I'm like, what? Right? Like, okay, we need to start having these conversations in different spaces. And then my sisters got married, my sisters had kids, right? So now I have these nieces and nephews that are 5 years old, and they're half Jat and they're half Jamaat. And I want them to be able to grow up and be able to say both of those things with the same amount of pride, right? Because this is the families they come from, this is their heritage. And so we started doing this work, and it came with storytelling. That's one thing that Poetic Justice is about, is storytelling. And it's through storytelling connecting and bringing people in, right? Like, this is not a divisive thing that we were doing. It was like, here. Because every time I hear it's like, well, caste isn't a thing here, right? And plus, we're sick. We don't believe in caste. Oh, but yeah, my mom wants me to marry a Jat sick girl. But we don't believe in caste, right? And this hashtag Jat, that's just cool shit. And it's like, no, it's not, guys. Like, it's problematic. And this is why, because you don't even know why it's problematic. So Overcast came as an opportunity to start telling these stories. And then when we got funding, and then we started putting the team together, Sharan, of course, me and Sharan sat down. But I really want to give respect to the team that came out, and that our team, our sponsors, our collaborators, because this isn't easy work. Every step of the way, you face pushback, you face criticism, you face harassment and bullying, but they keep showing up, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And these people who question us in behind closed doors, to me, it's like, but you're talking about us. We're actually making some, and when I see community come out like this is why, right? It's the where does caste happen? Why does it happen? How does it happen? And how can we confront it? So yeah, that's how it came out for me. And then a great team came in and just kind of like took over.
I'll keep it brief so we can dive into Senator Dhillon's talk and then the Q&A, but I think the experience of collecting the stories of Overcast is something that Anita and I got to experience together last summer, or 2 summers ago now. And I want to foreground those stories. So oftentimes when we are talking about oppressive systems and oppression such as caste-based discrimination, of course there is denialism, there is pushback, there is resistance. But I think our confidence lies in the fact that we went and did focus groups, we went and interviewed people one-on-one, and that culmination of people's lived experiences, ranging in age from like 13 to 70, 80, is what culminates even just 1/3 of what you're seeing out there. We still have data and interviews that we were not able to use. So that archive collecting, the storytelling foregrounds our entire work, and who can question people's truths? Who can question people's lived experiences? Who can question the range of ways that young people to people who are multi-generational are still continuing to see those same narratives of caste-based oppression? And so I just want to foreground the power of the story, and I'm super excited about getting to continue to share those stories and do the work. And we'll talk more about it in the Q&A as well.
Okay. Thank you for setting that up for us. I want to invite Senator Baltej S Dhillon to speak next. Baltej ji has been a vocal supporter of anti-caste organizing here in BC. We would love for you to share your thoughts on the exhibit and its significance given rampant caste-based discrimination in Canada.
You ask a politician to speak and he pulls out a speech.
He's got the mic.
Okay, well that was not worth the mic, but I was thinking that I would do it standing up. Sure. Is that all right?
Yeah, I can stand up.
Partially because I've had a lot of chole. That was good food though, I gotta say. I'm not sure who made the chole and rice, but that was...
Yeah, well, we tried to yeah, it was us. That's what we were doing before the lead-up to it.
It was fantastic. It's all about food. So we make light, we have humor, we smile, we laugh, because this is a very, very heavy subject. It is something that people carry with them. It is something that folks feel, experience, live with. And as Sharon said, these are their truths. So it is a difficult conversation. It is a conversation that has so many different sort of perspectives to it, but also contradictions, which I will delve into here as we go along. But I want to thank this team, and Sharan and Anita and Mo, who's somewhere over here, and others that have been at the forefront of this and have not only confronted, but have been confronted because of this work. It takes courage to walk this path. It takes solidarity to walk this path. It takes strength to get out of bed in the morning and say, yeah, I'm going to face a whole bunch of things today, but I still got to get up and I still got to get to that work. That is the path of Sikhi. None of it is easy. None of it is easy. But that is what this fight is about. That is what this work is about. It's not about us, it's about the other. It's about standing with the other. And aligning our values with our actions. It's easy to say I'm a Sikh. Very easy. It's a whole different thing putting that into action every day. From the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. From the time you start Japji at Ek Oankar to the time you finish with Kirtan Soila. It's a great privilege, it's a great pleasure for me to be here. To continue these conversations, our collective efforts, and frankly our shared duty in confronting all forms of casteism. I am privileged to call Surrey my home. The traditional and shared lands of the Caste, the Kwantlen, Coquitlam, the Semiahmoo, the Tuasin, First Nation, people of the Coast Salish peoples. And their deep and enduring connection to this land reminds us that belonging must never come at the expense of another's dignity. I come to you this evening as a Sikh, as a husband and a father, and as someone who continues to learn every single day. And that learning is what it means to live equality rather than simply speak it. So now allow me to begin with some very clear statements so that there's no confusion here tonight. And an invitation for all of us to recommit to our personal duties in the fight against casteism and indeed against all forms of injustice. And let me be plain in my language so that there's no confusion. When we talk about Sikhi, we talk about this path of Sikhi, and I am a Sikh. So Sikhi, and it's very clearly put out on the panels, stands against injustice. It's literally the first two letters of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, Ek Oankar. Sikhi stands against injustice. To remain silent in the face of it is an affront to the teachings of Guru Nanak Dev Ji and to the sacrifice of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji. Anyone engaged in casteism, racism, or prejudice against another cannot claim the privilege of being a Sikh. Our gurus rejected caste not as a philosophy, but as a lived rebellion against inequality. Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj begins with Ek Oankar. That is where the first lesson and the first duty starts. One universal creator. A truth that compels every Sikh to actively challenge bias, prejudice, indifference, and hatred every single day. Each morning when we recite Japji Sahib and proclaim Ek Oankar, we recommit to that effort of justice, equity, equality. Any departure requires correction. Any misstep requires remedy. Any injury caused requires recompense. We need to make right our wrongs. That is the essence of Sarbat Da Bhala. We say that in the Ardas every day. That is the essence of Sarbat Da Bhala, the welfare of all. Equality is not a gift one community gives another. It is the natural order we return to when ego steps aside. Now that we have that settled, sorted, clear, let's talk plainly about the caste system. We started down this path. Does it even exist? Is it a thing? I've heard people say, come on, this is Canada. Casteism doesn't happen here, does it? And let me be clear, let me also first acknowledge, this is not my lived experience. I have not known caste-based discrimination firsthand. I've lived privilege. Come from Malaysia, didn't know there was a caste thing until I got to Canada. When the immigration officer says, "What's your last name?" And I looked at my mom, last name Pochriya. Because up till that point, I was just Baltej Singh, son of Nachatra Singh. And she said, "Inu kehde Dhillon." And I said that, Dhillon, and they put the surname in. Still didn't know what that meant. But I do understand in part the pain that many of you have experienced and continue to carry. The othering, the quiet exclusions, the ways in which one can be made to feel small, unseen, or less. The oppression. My own experience, while different, gives me a glimpse. Because I too served within an institution that was once forced to allow me into its ranks. So while my understanding is limited, my empathy and my commitment to justice is not. I welcome instruction. I welcome correction. And I welcome the conversation because learning is the only path to be better, to grow, to commit, to support, to stand in solidarity. When asked whether casteism still exists, I say this: privilege nurtures ignorance, and comfort breeds indifference. Just sit with that for a second, because that's what I've been hearing for the last few days. And that is why these questions persist. So, folks, the answer is unequivocal. Yes, casteism continues to exist. It reveals itself in subtle and overt ways, in the weight given to one's voice or contribution, in who we are allowed to marry or love, and yes, in the quiet lines written into matrimonial sites that still ask for one's caste as though it were a credential. And I did that little experiment last night, by the way. I was just sharing that with some folks. I thought, let me have a look at this. And I went to one of these apps, what it was, Shadi.com or something like that. I'm married, 36 years, very happy.
We see you on these apps.
Yes, it was an experiment. But, yes, the following. And it was incredibly painful. And so you start off, first page, who's this for? So I said, for my daughter. And then it says, how old? Is it, what kind of education? Put that in. And then next page, where do you live? Canada, British Columbia. All right, very good. And then it asks for a few other questions. And then the third page comes along and then it says, caste. What is your caste? And you click on that button and it's a Rolodex. Literally goes on. I didn't know. It literally goes on. And then if you click on Jat, then there's a tick box that asks you, are you okay to marry outside of your caste? It's a question. So folks, casteism exists. And so it exists in the way someone's lived experience, when that is dismissed and is considered exaggerated or told to be dramatic. That is why the work being done here tonight through OVERCASTE is not only relevant, it is essential. It offers space for truth-telling, for listening, and for renewal. It reminds us that to fight injustice is not a gesture of charity. It is a responsibility of conscience. My own experience has taught me that Equality, inclusion, and equity cannot simply be legislated. They must be lived. And to live them, we must have the courage to confront the spaces in our hearts where hierarchy still hides. Our gurus did not theorize equality. They embodied it. They ate with those who were called untouchable, prayed with those deemed unworthy, and elevated the voices society had silenced. This was the entire foundation of Sikhi and what Guru Nanak Dev Ji left us with. This was the start of Sikhi. No more. No more. Ik Onkar. That is the spiritual rebellion at the heart of Sikhi. Sarbat Tapala, the welfare of all. Not just a blessing we offer, it is a blueprint for living together. As I see it, the journey toward equality is not about identifying villains. We'd be here all night. It's about identifying responsibilities. Let's figure out those spaces. We're all shaped by systems that came long before us. We inherit their vocabulary even when we reject their logic. The question then is not who created this, but who will end this. Dr. Ambedkar's life offers us that clarity. He understood that liberation requires more than changing names. It demands transforming mindsets. Sing in Core is wonderful, but unless you live Sing in Core, nothing changes. He moved from identity to illumination, reminding us that transformation is both social and spiritual. The Gurus taught the same. Equality begins where imitation ends. And every act of humility brings us closer to the Creator's light. The Canada I believe in and work toward every day is one where every child can wear their faith, their skin, and their identity proudly, without ever having to shrink themselves to fit someone else's comfort. That vision is not merely political, it's non-political, it is deeply spiritual. Because when we honor the light in one another, we strengthen the very democracy that sustains us all. My friends, this evening and this event are more than a program. They are a mirror, one that invites us to look inward, to notice where hierarchy still whispers, and to quiet it with understanding, humility, and love. I wake up every morning knowing that I wake up with bias, with blind spots, with prejudice, with discrimination, and I take it on as a responsibility on that day, every day, to constantly challenge my mind and be available to learn and hear the pain of another so that I can be different tomorrow. Let us leave tonight committed to walking beside one another, not ahead, not behind, but together. Let us ensure that the freedom we claim is one that uplifts everyone equally and fully. May our hearts remain open, our courage unshaken, and our commitment to one another unwavering. Thank you so much for having me.
Exhibit. Seema, you've been doing research on caste, both in India as well as in Canada. What are your thoughts on the exhibit and how you might situate your own research and findings alongside the testimonials that we've seen in this exhibit? Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Narayan. I am glad to be a part of this wonderful gathering today. Thank you, Anita ji and Sharan ji, for putting up the display, the exhibition. That is really important. And I would also like to express my gratitude for the Department of History where I am working as a postdoctorate fellow in Dalit studies. Postdoctorate fellow in Dalit studies is one of its kind in the whole world. So I am really proud coming from a Dalit background and doing research on my community. So I would like to express my gratitude to History Department, my supervisor, Dr. Anne Murphy, for providing me space that I am able to share my thoughts and my research and my journey with you all today. So I really commend that we are discussing about this problem today, but it is really tragic that in 21st century and in a international space, we are discussing about caste, which is persisting from thousands of years in India and South Asian countries. So it is really disheartening for me. We are dealing with caste on everyday basis. For most of my life, I did not know much about caste. I was born and brought up in a city, and my parents were doing good jobs, decent jobs. Only when I enrolled myself in PhD, I was doing work on Ravidasiya religion. So I was exploring what was the need to form a new religion, and when they already adopted a new identity, which was an Dharam identity in 1930s. So what was the need for a new identity? So in my research, I found out that Ravidasis or the Dalits, they are trying to come out from the caste identities, and that's why they are adopting a new religious identities to come out from the stigma of caste. So it's been thousands of years, the traditional social order, the Varnashram system. And today we are discussing about caste, which is not existing in the same form in Canada. So caste is evolving itself, it's changing every day, and we are not able to make sense of caste. For a major chunk of my life, I was unconsciously bearing the brunt of caste, but I was not aware that it was caste what was affecting me and my family. So that is how I decided to do research on Ravidasiya identity, and then after doing my PhD, I joined as postdoc, and I am doing now research on Caste in Canada project. So what I would like to say is it's really important to discuss about caste. It's the foremost and the fundamental thing that we talk about caste. Denial of caste is the major problem within South Asian diaspora. Many people who migrated, they came to new lands in search of new opportunities to find economic mobility and to find social solace. So they try to come out from the clutches of caste, and so that they can do more in their lives, they can reach out to their full potential. But when they came to a new country, they were adopting new lifestyle, and then again they encountered the same kind of discrimination, which they tried to run away from. So they tried to find solution, but they could not find it. They found economic status, but they were not able to come out from the clutches of caste on social level. So this is the reason that we are still documenting. During my postdoc research, I am documenting the lived experiences of caste, collecting the personal narratives, the discrimination people have experienced in their lives or what they have observed, so that we can talk more about caste, and we can come to a consensus, we can find solution to it, and this exhibition is a step towards it, seemingly small, but a major step towards it, because it is really, really important to discuss about caste and come to a consensus and find solution to it. Thank you.
Seema, I think what you said about economic mobility frequently masking caste discrimination in the social realm is a really important one, and the masking is also connected to active attempts to discredit the presence of caste, really, or the existence of caste and caste-based discrimination among South Asians here, to deny it. And, that's come up a few times in our conversation already, and I want to open up a space for the panel to talk a little bit about this silence and the active attempts to discredit. Where is that coming from? How do we understand this kind of active pushback against conversations about caste? Are there specific spheres where there isn't enough awareness, or there's active resistance to speaking about this? And I would like for all of you to respond to that.
You have the mic.
I took it, Janaki. So I think when we talk about caste-based resistance in South Asian spaces, we can disaggregate that even more. So denialism of caste-based discrimination in Sikh spaces, which is what Baltej ji was talking to quite a bit, denialism of casteism in like Hindu spaces, and looking at the Brahmanical power structures that give rise to casteism, and how they both intersect with each other, but also how they differentiate with each other as well. So we have faced explicit denialism over the year and a half that we've been doing this exhibit work. And we don't want to give too much airtime to that, but I think it's really important because Anita and I were talking about how that lands so heavy on us each time. So this is our third iteration of doing this exhibit now, I think. Burnaby Village Museum, UBC Okanagan, and now here. And each time we have been met with harassment, emails, bullying, just a bombardment. And we do joke about it, we try to laugh it off, but it still lands heavy because it is, like what Seema was saying, it's a difficult reminder of the fact that resistance exists. And so as a Sikh woman, right, it resists at times of dating, at times of marriage. I had an intercaste marriage as well, and I talk about this very openly. I wasn't allowed to marry the guy who became my husband, and so we eloped and had a marriage, and that was almost 20 years ago as well. And those stories still continue today. Like, I still have young people telling me about experiencing those similar kinds of stories. So it's just such a constant generational conversation around caste-based discrimination at times of marriage, relationships. Again, in the Sikh Panjabi context, because those are my community spaces. And then we have the conversation about denialism in terms of a broader power structure of Hindutva power structures, and wanting to keep that power intact for other reasons related to power. And so I think we as Sikhs, again, in particular, who are social justice advocates, should really look to that intersection. And what are we supporting when we engage in caste-based denialism? We're supporting a bigger power structure and something bigger that is taking place here across Canada as well. But I'll leave it for somebody else to respond to as well. So I think I'm seeing it in a few different ways for sure.
I'm gonna kind of come at this from a more lived experience type of space. So when I look at my community, so by my community I mean the Dalit community, my family, people within the space, there's even resistance there to talk about this. Now, if you think about it, there's this system of oppression which is 3,000 years old. And in this system, you are considered unpure, right? The minute somebody says Jamaat, everyone cringes. Me, being a Jamaat, will cringe, and the person hearing it, because this has actually been turned into a swear word. So when my identity and that of my family, my ancestors and all that has become a derogatory word, what do you guys think? And now you expect them to come out. So first they share stories with you, okay? But now you expect them to come out and validate their stories, prove how badly they've been victimized, right? And then that in itself is unfair. But then also people who have come here looking for a better life have gotten themselves a better life. they're thriving. And now, why are you talking about caste? Just leave it. Just leave it alone. You don't need to go out there. And even my own family, they're like, I need to go do something else, man. Like, what are you doing? Right? Like, we talked about this before. It's like, why are you going out there, and why you kind of like, these scars, opening up these scars again? Why are you talking about what happened back then? It's so much better now. You're born and raised here, right? You have everything going for you. So it's kind of that whole just let us live. But it's like, but no, it's not just like it's okay. No, you should be able to live where it's good, right? So actually telling them that there's that opportunity, and that opportunity for the next generation. And so, yeah, from the community side, there is like, there's that angst of showing up, that angst of like, now I'm drawing this attention. Now my kids are going to be called Dalits. They don't even know what Dalit is. Well, that's problematic in itself. Why haven't you taught your kid? All the Jat kids know that they're Jat. Right? Why don't the Dalit kids know that they're a Dalit? Right? There's a lot of power there, because there's so many stories of power and that haven't been shared. Right? So yeah, from a community thing, that's what I see.
I would say that's a fantastic question to ask some leaders in our community. And that would be a wonderful conversation to have, where we sit and say, so does casteism exist? If it does, then why the denial? If it doesn't exist, then who are these people that are talking about it? Right? And let's go to this matrimony side. We'll all take a picture. But those truths do need to come out at some point, because I'm going to guess here, sitting, I'm just going to guess why there's denialism. I haven't had that conversation. I have in the last couple of days, a few days now, where folks have called and said. And I put that question to them very squarely. I said, well, do you think this doesn't exist? Because I can show you right now. And we just had an investigation here not very long ago where someone contracted a killer to shoot their daughter and her husband in another land because they married somebody of a lower caste, a leader in the community. So deny that. Just because I don't live it, I don't see it, I don't experience it, does not make it non-existent. It is this continuous sort of conversation around all of the things around it, but it seems to be the issue, because that's what I've been getting at this last few days. Is this, but no, let's talk about this. So, as I sat, and I sit with myself as I say, is it out of shame that as a Sikh and as Gursikhs, we've not been able to lead the instruction and the teachings of Guru Nanak Dev Ji and live up to the expectations of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, who walked, leaving his 9-year-old son behind, Guru Gobind Singh, and said, for the other, I will give my life. For their choice, for their ability to be able to live freely, I will give myself. Is it that shame that we're now, 550 years since Guru Nanak, and we're still talking about casteism when he said back then, no more? Is it that guilt that we carry, that we haven't been able to fulfill his promise? I don't know. These are questions, but they're worth asking. They're worth having a conversation around. And maybe when we get to that, when we kind of have that discussion, we have that conversation, we can land on a way forward. Because at the end of the day, that is at the heart of this. That is the heart of our conversation and talk today. That this is happening. This is being lived. This is being experienced. So what's our duty? What's our role? What's my job? How do I show up?
Okay, so caste is a very difficult subject that we have already established. But when we talk about caste, what actually caste is? So caste has no fundamental basis. It's just a notion. Caste is a notion, and it's embedded, deeply embedded in the psyche of people. And caste has no scientific basis, no logical basis. So that is very important to realize that it's just a notion. That is why it's very difficult to eradicate caste, because it cannot be seen. But still it manifests daily in our everyday lives. Still it occurs at such a level that, it's difficult. So caste is changing, evolving every day. Nature and scope of caste is also becoming a very complex subject. So when we are talking about caste in Canada, we are already dealing with so many other challenges that people have migrated, and they are having other kinds of discrimination such as racism, economic challenges, on social barriers, then they have other on gender basis, and then on top of it, we are also dealing with caste. So the intersectionality makes it really, really complex. That is why it's important to talk about caste in a global level. And more talking on the nomenclature of caste, that many castes have been, like caste names have been stigmatized. Whichever caste name Dalits chose, so they were stripped of their identity. So they were made derogatory. And caste names are no, I don't think so it's anything to be proud of. Caste, we need to realize it's a serious issue and we need to address it. We need to accept that caste is there, but we need not to highlight it in a way that we are proud of caste. We need to assert that we belong to this caste, but at the very same time, we also need to think and realize that we need to shed this caste identities. So when I came to Canada, first I noticed that on roads, people are having cars and their number plates are having caste names. So I was really shattered to see that, because in India, people who are doing this are getting fined. But here, because we don't know the severity of this, the system doesn't know the severity. So this is becoming normalized. It is becoming routinized. So caste is becoming part of our culture. So we need to be mindful of it, conscious of it, and I will emphasize that we need to come to consensus what needs to be done with caste. Thank you.
Big problem is that caste isn't legible here in Canada, or legible enough, and exhibits like Overcast are helping spread awareness about it in these spaces. But let's talk a little bit about formal protections against caste-based discrimination, right? Caste-based discrimination is illegal in India, but caste orders life in India till date. Here in BC, we've had some significant victories with the BC Human Rights Tribunal awarding compensation to victims of caste-based discrimination. But caste is not its own officially recognized category of protection under the BC Human Rights Code. It can be considered under the category of ancestry, for instance, but that doesn't help make caste more legible necessarily. Let's face it, for them, South Asians are all the same. There's no view of differences amongst South Asians and the and the repercussions of caste-based discrimination here. Now, this poses huge restrictions on what kind of protections are offered for those facing this discrimination, including here at universities. UBC, for instance, will not recognize categories that do not feature in the BC Human Rights Code. But it's not that students don't face caste-based discrimination. Meanwhile, right? We've seen significant gains being made, having been made in Ontario and the city of Burnaby too, in officially recognizing caste as a basis of discrimination. Could the panel reflect a little bit on what are the hurdles to realizing that here in BC? What have they been so far? And what we could be doing to make caste a protected category against discrimination here? And whether that's even a route that you think is worth, spending our efforts on.
Before I give it to the senator to talk policy, I think you're going to be on the spot. Yeah. Before we even talk about reaching tables of like BC Office of the Human Rights or categories of like understanding in university spaces or cultural spaces or any spaces, I think we have to talk more about the suppression and the power of the suppression and how it fosters like a lack of advocacy and self-awareness in the people who are facing caste-based oppression. So because like I see this in young people too, even young people who are aware that they are not of a dominant caste and are aware of the caste-based system, fear speaking openly about what caste they may come from or like the oppression that they may see around them. And so like I'm really fascinated in a horrible way, like that fear that is fostered almost subconsciously in young people who come from caste oppressed communities. So before we even begin to like reach the tables and the places where people in positions of power can create that category, there needs to be more momentum and movement from the people and learn how to advocate in a way that they are supported in solidarity with other communities and other people as well. I'm just not seeing that momentum. I just continue to see suppression, suppression, suppression. And so every time people do talk about caste-based discrimination like we are trying to do, you are met with like 50 times more suppression and denialism, right? So it's almost like you need to do two things at the same time. You need to uplift the awareness building around what caste-based discrimination looks like here in BC, while at the same time, frick man, you gotta teach the people who aren't from our communities what caste-based oppression is, and that's hard. Like you're trying to teach like basically white people in power, not only about systemic racism and white supremacy, but also casteism now. It's very difficult, though they do parallel each other. Like racism, of course, parallels casteism in many ways, but the learning is also so difficult because you're doing two things. You're trying to teach them two things. So I'm not giving a very good answer. I just think we do need to uplift the suppression that continues to take place from like a high school level onwards, because high school students are facing caste-based discrimination all the time.
Thank you, Doctor. It's very intimidating sitting next to all these academics here. But I think the answer is exactly what you've said, Sharon, and thank you for all the work that you're doing. It's important because that informs the work ahead. Look, I like things to be simple. For me, it's pretty black and white. And this is where I said before that we've got to get to the heart of the question, let go of the distractions, and ask a simple question. Does casteism exist? Are people being injured by it? Are people being discriminated by it? Are there things that are occurring where folks are being victimized and it is interfering with them living a full life in this country that we call a just country? And so if the answer to all of the questions is yes, 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 this is happening, then there's a duty for every leader that looks like me to act. There's a duty. How do you deny that duty then? Because as a Sikh, I have a duty. As Sikh leaders, we have a duty to stand in solidarity with all who are being oppressed, being harmed, being treated unjustly. There's a duty. We've done that. We've done that during the times of the Guru. We've done that when we've come here. We've done that for others. Now we should do that for all of this as well. So but it's important to, as you say, that momentum needs to be there. The storytelling is important to capture the witness statements, if you will, are important, so that there is no distraction, there's no denial, there's no, anitik, onitik, this and that. So it's to the heart, and that's a question I've been asking for the last little while. Is there casteism? Does this exist? Because that is at the heart of this entire thing. And so it's either a yes or a no. And if it's a yes, we have a duty to act. If it's no, then what's all this? Who are these people? Are they just making stuff up? And we have evidence, we have testimony, we have lived experiences, we have investigations, we have human rights decisions. So it's undeniable.
Go for it. Pass this down.
As already being mentioned, that first and foremost thing that we need to talk about caste. We all need to do our bit and talk more about caste. And like Sharanjit has mentioned and Baltej has mentioned, that denial of caste is the major issue. People who wanted to come out from the stigma of caste and still they are facing the same thing, they are still in denial mode. And caste is not a problem of a region, any religion, or any caste, or any class, or any social group. It's a collective problem. We all need to come to a table and discuss more about caste, what caste is, how caste can be addressed. Only then we can solve it. So the first and foremost thing is to realize the severity of the problem, and then only we can address it. On personal level, I have been conducting research on caste, whatever we can do, like we all need to do. And at university level, at school level, in educational institutes, we need to form curriculums based on caste. We need to include sensitization drives for teachers because they don't know what actually caste is. In many universities in US, like in almost 20 universities in US, they have recognized caste as a protected category in universities. We need that kind of framework in Canada. In Brown University in US, even though caste has been covered within racism on the basis of ancestry or descent, but still they understood that caste needs to be added separately as an exclusive category. So that is what is required in Canada, and on city level and state level, caste recognitions should be there. We need to recognize caste in the framework, Human Rights Code. That's the way to go. And first and foremost, again, I'll emphasize, we all need to come, talk, discuss more about caste.
I have like so many thoughts in my head, but I'm going to start by like quoting Dr. Ambedkar. And if you've ever gone on our website or anything, you will see it says educate, agitate, organize, right? And as we've all said, that education factor is huge because like most of us here, especially people who are born and raised here or grew up here, don't understand. So let alone people outside of the South Asian culture, right? And so there's a huge educating component. And that is like from Poetic Justice, like the work we do, bringing these into conversations, taking this into spaces that caste isn't discussed in, right? To let them know. But the point of also doing that is we do strongly believe in collective liberation, right? So when we're going out there and we're talking about caste discrimination in Canada, and we're not talking about truth and reconciliation, and we're not talking about the Indigenous women and who have been murdered and there's no justice, or what's happening in Palestine, or what's been happening in Sudan, right? Like it's building across movements, learning how to build across movements. And at times, learning how to build within the Panjabi community and the Sikh community too. And a lot of focus today has been on the Panjabi Sikh community. Now, the reason that is because that's our lived experience, that's our community, that's what we're coming in from, right? But this happens across South Asian communities, right? But just being authentic to our lived experiences, there's this, so we need to base build, right? We need to go out there, talk about this, and then also stand in solidarity with other movements and together, because BC human rights, like they're gonna be like, okay, 5 people just showed up, and it's like Caste needs to be, and then they might have a few stories, but are they gonna do it? No, they're not, right? So it's that coalition building, it's that going out there, and it's that building together, and it's about human rights, it's about social justice, and it's about every Canadian being able to live that life that they want to live, and working outside of our silos. And in that space, there's a lot of tension, right? But then also, guys, like this is also why you won't see Poetic Justice going and answering every critique that comes, because we're trying to do other work, right? So once again, also staying focused on the work that needs to be done. When there's critique, we openly take critique. There's been critique through here where we've made changes. We've humbly said that was something that we should have been more mindful of, but we're also not going to spend all our time on the critique, because either you're with us or you're not. Yep. So base building, educating, making people understand that, hey, this needs to agitate them. They should be pissed off when they hear those Jat songs, right? And be like, oh my God, like that's not right. Or, that hashtag Jat or the Jat tattoos. Once again, I'm just saying this because that's what's familiar to me. There's also other things that they could be working on. And then organizing together to once again, and it's bringing people in too. Like there's no othering. This is not a bad and a good. Right? That's also another thing, right? We're not saying that there's bad and that there's good, right? There's a situation that we need to work on. So coalition building is also a big thing that I think is going to be able to help us build enough to actually make these policy changes and to actually affect that.
Well said.
I'm looking at the time, and I think to sort of end this discussion on the note of education, solidarity, social justice, and righteous anger seems like a good place to solidarity.
We are the anti-Hindutva group. Quote that. When we were talking about working in solidarity and working across movements, we all know that international interference is a very serious thing for us, right? Whether you're an anti-caste organization, whether you are a queer organization, Kashmiri organization, a Sikh organization that's fighting for rights and justice. So yes, we organize with it and we organize together, or we should be, and we're trying to, because especially if you look at what's happened in the States and how deep-rooted those right-wing Hindu groups are and how much they control when it comes down to what the narrative is and what's been normalized. And you see that's been happening, it's been happening in Canada for a while. It's not as bad as in the States, but we're smaller, but they're getting there, right? Those roots are getting there and they're in places of influence, right? So when you have bills that are trying to be passed around Hinduphobia, it's not about them having equal justice, it's actually about who are they silencing, right? Those are silencing moves. And so we're there, we stand up in solidarity with these organizations, and a lot of time, Poetic Justice has come under a lot of fire for it, but it aligns with what our values are, right? And what those right-wing Hindutva type of organizations do, whether it's with the Muslims, with Sikhs, with Dalits, there's no way that we couldn't. Do these organizations come out and support us? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But really, that's not how your work should be, right? What is out there and what's being done. So yeah, we have organized. We do try to organize more. We definitely do come out when we can. Not just even when we can. We come out. We show up.
I think that's a good answer.
Yeah. Seema, did you want to speak to the intersection?
That's a good answer. Thank you, teacher.
That's not what I meant.
A plus. A plus. Okay. There's another question here on what the panel's view is on the much discussed South Asian Heritage Museum.
Here, hold up. No, can I start? I'll be quick. So it's really interesting what's been taking place most recently, because the South Asian Canadian Museum was promised more than 4 years ago, and the wave has kind of waned, and all of a sudden Surrey and Vancouver are both vying for the location of the South Asian Canadian Museum, or whatever it's called. It's got a bizarre title now. Heritage is thrown in there as well somewhere. I don't quite understand where the connection is being made to the conversation today. So it would have been nice if the question was linked to, the conversation we're having today. But, I have many, many thoughts about it. I think at the end of the day, having previously worked on that advisory committee, that the ministry needs to actually listen to what different communities within the broad umbrella of South Asia actually want, and that includes intergenerational, that includes intersectional, that includes, different caste-based communities. Like, it needs to be a broader conversation, and what I've seen so far has not been safe, and it has not been broad, and it's just like a power match now that's taking place between Surrey and Vancouver. So it's become even more bizarre. But I have a feeling there's something percolating, and there's a reason why all of a sudden it's bubbling up again. So something's happening. I don't know if there's going to be an announcement made or something's going to happen. In terms of the relationship to the conversation today, I do hope that when that decision or announcement is made, that there is a broader understanding of the complexity of the word South Asia, and also the complexity of caste-based discrimination and who was excluded thus far in the conversation of the South Asian Canadian Museum. So I think there is going to be an announcement or something coming up soon, and that's why there's lots of a news sound bites coming up. I don't know what that is, but something's happening for sure. This is a really deserved clap.
Senator Dhillon, there's one for you. Thank you for your advocacy for minorities. Please share a roadmap you have in mind for equity and inclusion in Canada. Big one.
Roadmap. Wow. Look, I think the roadmap started some time ago. The work has been ongoing. We've come a long way. There's many successes that we've achieved. There's many spaces that in the past we would not have had a voice, or representation. Much of that has changed. And so there's a lot of progress that has been made. There's momentum, but the work is not yet done. There are still voices that are not heard, places that are vacant from representation, and ideas and initiatives that still require, like this one, support and advocacy. So this is, it's a very big question, and it's hard to answer it in a simple way. But I think it's about showing up daily, owning your role wherever you are, and representing the person you are first, and also your identity in an authentic way, and not allowing all of that is going on around you, the noise, to interfere with your duty, your responsibility, and being true to yourself. I think it starts there. The rest of it is going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us to stand in solidarity. It's going to take all of us to have some conversations. It's going to be about showing up like you have tonight. Then changes happen. But if we don't take advantage, and if we don't claim our rights, which we are entitled to, then that's where some of this stuff falters and falls apart. So I hope that's somewhat meaningful and helpful. And if I didn't answer that question, the QR code's still up there. Please feel free to answer a follow-up.
Questions haven't come up in the last couple of minutes. So meanwhile, I think I'm just going to steal a couple of minutes to talk about some really important anti-caste work going on here at UBC. And I want to acknowledge students' leadership in doing that. Manmeet Singh, we've already mentioned, who's been leading anti-caste or like directing anti-caste work here on campus since before they even got here to start graduate school. Mithali Madhusmita is another incredible erstwhile graduate student, now alumnus, who's also been at the forefront of raising awareness on caste and caste-based discrimination on university campuses the last couple of years. The Center for India and South Asia Research has had the incredible honor and privilege to partner with Poetic Justice Foundation over the last many years since before my time. And other incredible organizations, including the Chetna Association of Canada, to host a whole host of events on, just with anti-caste programming here on campus. Do subscribe to our newsletter. Shameless plug. But we try and keep alive conversations on caste here on campus. We've hosted, in addition to a bunch of events, the Ambedkar Symposium on Emancipation once in 2023, coming up again in 2026. Look out for publicity on it. It's scheduled for March 14th onwards, or for 15th onwards. So do please keep an eye out for that. I know that there is also a great number of incredible graduate students here in the room who are thinking about caste in their research and work, and I think with ongoing solidarity and breaking of silos, there's a lot of potential for us to make some meaningful gains on campus. So I just wanted to acknowledge students and their leadership on this front.
Sure, for sure.
What sort of a time? And I want to maybe leave a few minutes for the audience to circulate and come up and talk to our panel members while we kind of set up the room. We also have to be out of here in about 10 minutes or so. Thank you so much for coming. Please join me in thanking this incredible panel for coming up, for putting this together. Thank you all so much for coming. We hope this is only the beginning of an ongoing conversation on caste and to break the silence around it. Thank you so much. Good night.